For years, the Murdaugh name carried absolute power across South Carolina. Judges knew it, lawyers respected it, and police officers certainly recognized it. For nearly a century, members of this family held incredible influence over the legal system in a region where their name was almost synonymous with justice. But on a warm June evening in 2021, that powerful legacy began to unravel. What followed would become one of the most shocking true crime stories in modern America. We're talking about a story of murder, financial ruin, and a single cell phone video that changed everything. Welcome to Echoes of Evidence.
They say that every crime leaves an echo. Sometimes those echoes remain completely silent for years, sometimes even for decades, just waiting patiently for science to catch up. Well, tonight's investigation begins with a single piece of evidence, a simple video that was never ever meant to solve a murder.
To really understand this case, we have to look at who this family was. The Murdaughs had long been considered South Carolina royalty. For generations, family members served as prosecutors in the state's Low Country region. Their influence stretched across courtrooms, law enforcement agencies, and local politics. At the center of all this was Alex Murdaugh. He was a successful attorney, a husband, a father, and a prominent member of one of the most powerful families in the state. To outsiders looking in, the Murdaughs appeared to have it all: wealth, status, and deep respect.
But behind that carefully crafted public image, serious problems were beginning to emerge. In February of 2019, Alex's son Paul Murdaugh was involved in a tragic boating accident. 19-year-old Mallory Beach lost her life that night. And as you might expect, the incident generated intense public attention. Paul faced criminal charges, and the Murdaugh family suddenly became the target of civil lawsuits seeking accountability. For the first time, this untouchable family found itself under intense scrutiny. Yet, the boat crash was really only part of the story. Unknown to many people around him, Alex Murdaugh was facing mounting financial pressure. Investigators would later uncover shocking allegations that millions of dollars had been stolen from clients and business associates over many years. The image of success was starting to crack, and those cracks were growing larger by the day.
And then came the evening of June 7th, 2021. Alex's wife Maggie and his son Paul were out at the family's rural hunting estate, a sprawling property known as Moselle. This isolated estate covered more than 1,000 acres of dense woods, open fields, and hunting grounds. It created a very remote, very quiet backdrop for what was about to happen. Sometime that night, out in the dark, both Maggie and Paul were shot and killed near the property's dog kennels. Then, at 10:06 p.m., Alex Murdaugh called emergency services. His voice sounded frantic and emotional on the recording. He reported that he had just arrived and discovered their bodies. When investigators arrived, they found a devastating scene. 2 family members dead, no witnesses, no obvious suspect, and absolutely no immediate explanation for the violence. The murders quickly became national news, sparking questions across the country. Who would target the family of such a powerful attorney? Was this brutal attack somehow connected to that boating accident, or was it something else entirely?
Alex told investigators he had not been present when the murders occurred. According to his account, he had been resting at the main house before leaving to visit his ailing mother. He claimed that it was only when he returned that he found the bodies. For months, the investigation ground on. Detectives examined evidence, interviewed witnesses, and analyzed phone records. But one massive question remained at the center of it all. Was Alex telling the truth?
Then, investigators uncovered a piece of digital evidence that would completely transform the case. Earlier that evening, Paul Murdaugh had recorded a short cell phone video. It was completely ordinary. He was simply filming a dog near the kennels. Nothing about this brief recording suggested it would become a critical piece of evidence, but investigators noticed voices in the background, and one of them clearly belonged to Alex Murdaugh. The significance of this was simply enormous. You see, the recording placed Alex at the kennels just minutes before prosecutors believed the murders occurred. That was a direct, undeniable contradiction of his original statements to law enforcement. Overnight, the case changed. What had once appeared to be a grieving husband reporting a tragedy now became something very, very different.
Investigators began constructing a highly detailed digital timeline. They looked at cell phone data, vehicle movement records, GPS coordinates, and text messages. They painstakingly tracked every single digital footprint left behind that night. And according to prosecutors, that timeline revealed fatal inconsistencies in Alex's story. Faced with this evidence, Alex eventually admitted that he had in fact lied about being at the kennels. But this admission only raised more questions. Why lie about such a crucial detail? What exactly was he trying to hide? As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered evidence of massive financial crimes that stretched far beyond the murder case. Millions of dollars were allegedly missing, clients had reportedly been defrauded, business partners claimed they had been deeply deceived. The pressure surrounding Alex was becoming overwhelming.
Prosecutors would later argue that everything was closing in on him. The financial investigations, the civil lawsuits, the intense professional scrutiny. His carefully maintained image of success was collapsing all around him. According to the prosecution, these murders created a powerful distraction. Public attention shifted, sympathy emerged, and the questions about the missing money temporarily moved into the background. The state essentially argued that Alex had a motive rooted in pure desperation. The defense, however, strongly disagreed. They pointed out that there was absolutely no direct physical evidence proving Alex pulled the trigger. No murder weapon had ever been recovered, no eyewitnesses had seen the killings, and they argued that investigators became entirely too focused on Alex, ultimately ignoring other possibilities.
The trial finally began in January 2023, and millions of people tuned in to follow the proceedings. Witnesses testified, experts carefully explained the forensic evidence. Digital analysts reconstructed those complex timelines for the jury, and that kennel video, it was played repeatedly in court, again and again. Jurors heard the voices captured just moments before the murders. What started as a simple, everyday recording of a dog had become the absolute centerpiece of one of the most closely watched trials in America.
After weeks of intense testimony, the case went to the jury, and their deliberations were shockingly brief. In less than 3 hours, the jury reached its decision. Alex Murdaugh was found guilty of murdering Maggie and Paul Murdaugh. He was sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. For many observers, this verdict marked the end of a stunning chapter in American criminal justice. A once powerful legal figure had fallen, the evidence had spoken, and a dynasty had officially collapsed.
But, as is often the case, the story did not end there. Years later, legal challenges have continued. Questions have emerged regarding the fairness of the original trial process. Appellate courts are still reviewing allegations involving jury influence and courtroom procedures. The legal battle surrounding this case remains part of an ongoing, complex conversation about justice, evidence, and due process.
You know, what makes this case so remarkable isn't just the verdict itself. It's the critical role that digital evidence played in uncovering the truth. For decades, investigators relied heavily on physical evidence, witness testimony, and confessions. But in this investigation, one of the most important witnesses was a cell phone. A short video recorded for an entirely unrelated reason captured a moment that investigators later used to completely unravel a suspect's version of events. The Murdaugh case demonstrates how modern investigations increasingly depend on digital footprints. Phones, GPS systems, vehicle data, text messages, electronic records. When you put them together, they can reconstruct timelines with extraordinary precision. It really proves that sometimes the absolute smallest digital trace can become the loudest piece of evidence in a courtroom.
So before we close this case, I'd really like to hear your thoughts. Do you believe the kennel video was the most important evidence in this investigation, or do you think the financial motive played a larger role in convincing the jury? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoy forensic investigations, cold cases, and the science that helps uncover the truth, please support Echoes of Evidence by liking this explainer, sharing it with fellow true crime enthusiasts, and subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Evidence remembers and truth prevails. I'll see you in the next investigation.